Well, hey, everybody. How is everyone? I'm so excited you're here. Just give me a quick shout out in the chat if you can see me, if you can hear me. I got a couple hellos. Just want to make sure before we get rolling that you see me, you hear me. In fact, if you do see me or hear me, go ahead and put in the chat. I see you. You can even put your city. I've been following the chat for a little while and seeing where everyone is from. And I am super, super excited. We have people from all over. I don't see anything but messages. Mary, log out, log back in again. Everyone else, you're doing great. We're going to get started in just 1 second. I'm going to take one more sip. I got an aloha. That must be a good sign. And just making sure we got everyone rocking and rolling here. Fantastic. At Baltimore, Maryland, Ontario in the house, Atlanta, Toronto. Always love our Ontario fans. We got Milwaukee. Yes. If you still see the image of a bunch of very happy authors on the screen, press play. You can't hear me say that, though. You can only see it in the chat. All right, I want to get rolling. Before I officially start, I want to give you a little tip-off on what we are doing today because we have an amazing crowd. So this will be edited out of the savings. And by the way, Laura, Neil, I live on the Chesapeake Bay too. I'm in Chesapeake Beach, Maryland. So always nice to have other Bay folks around. So here's the deal. I am going to teach you so much today. This is not a normal workshop. We are going to do about 3 days worth of work in the next 3 hours. There are a couple reasons, and I want you to understand those reasons before we get started. And then hopefully, if you didn't have 3 hours carved out, go carve them out because this is going to be an incredible day. I am creating a program, or rather, I'm recreating a program. At the very beginning of the Author Incubator, I created a program called Free Your Inner Author. This was back in 2012, 2013. And I created the program and I haven't updated it. And so rather than creating it alone in a studio, I thought I would have you with me and we would create it together. And so that is what we're doing. I will be selling this program. So congratulations, you just got it for free. And you get to be a part of the community here. So you get to help me create it, which I am very, very, very grateful for. Probably going to send you a follow-up survey and maybe get some testimonials and quotes if you learned a lot. But you should treat today like a paid program because this is a paid program. It will be a paid program. And I wanted to create it all with you because I get lonely making trainings alone in my house. So I wanted to feel a sense of community, but I am going to load this up with content. So a lot of times you will see a training like this, but it's really just a pitch. This is going to be a ton of content on how to actually get your book done. So wanted to give you all that heads up before we get started. You should have like pen, pencil, or if you take notes on your phone, have your phone handy. We're going to largely be in PowerPoint and we're going to cover a lot of material. So with that, I think I have given people enough time to gather. We will get the replay out, but who the fuck is going to watch it? It's 3 hours. Malika, just hang here with me. I hate replays. Let's just be live in the moment together. So I'm very excited. We are going to make something together in this moment. hit me up with an I'm ready, and I will roll into the presentation. I'm almost ready. Feel like a little hit of Lippy never hurt. Do a little hit of Lippy. What do you guys think? Guys are like, what is she talking about? Hit a Lippy. All right. 105. If anybody's late, it's on them. Let's hit this. Well, hello and welcome to Free Your Inner Author. This is a workshop on how to write a book that will help you create a full-time income as an author without an email list, a website, or even paying for advertising. This is the ultimate system that I have shared with over 1,500 authors. It has changed people's lives. People have retired their husbands. This system has created 24 millionaires, all women, by the way, even though we do work with men. But the women really rock my system. And it is something that is not often shared. When you work with an editor, when you work with even a book coach, they're looking at one piece of this pie. And what we do with Free Your Inner Author is really look at the entire experience of being an author. So I'm going to ask you, and you can share this in the chat, have you written a book? I know we have some authors here, and if that's you and you've already written a book, that is fantastic. If you have not, and I promise you will still learn a ton. If you have not written a book yet, just say no, because I would love to know who we have in the audience here today. So have you written a book or have you finished a book? And that will just give us a little information. All right. And the second question is, do you want to write a book? So I see we've got some authors in the house. I am hoping I will surprise you. We do some things differently here. So, and if you haven't, I'm going to blow your mind. And if you want to write one or write another one, share that as well. All right. So this is what the numbers look like. 91% of people say they want to write a book. 91%. That's according to the New York Times. 3% get the manuscript done, but only 20% of people who get a manuscript done publish. So if you have wanted to write a book for 30 years, or you've started one but you haven't finished, or if you've even finished a manuscript and you haven't published, you are normal. Only 0.06% of the population write and publish their book, which is a pretty crazy number. I am on a mission to change those numbers. And in fact, at the Author Incubator, our completion rate is 99.6%. But in the larger world, without a coach, 0.06%. With a coach, you're about 3% likely to publish. So you need a whole system. And the thing is, you can't make a difference with a book unless you get it done. A lot of people want to talk about it. They want to think about it. But if you want to actually make a difference with a book, you have to get it done. Now, finishing isn't enough, but it is the baseline requirement. So I want you to really think as we start, if you haven't finished, why haven't you finished? It could be that you don't have clarity on your topic, you don't know how to get an editor, you've changed your mind so many times. Whatever those reasons are, if we don't overcome those reasons, your book can't ever make a difference. It's the absolute baseline. And I learned this the hard way. I started my career before the Author Incubator. My business was called, I'd been a freelancer and a ghostwriter and an editor. And when I started as a book coach, I was very lucky. In the first year, I had 256 clients, which is awesome. And I feel super blessed. But only one of those authors finished her book, Jill Farmer. She was my one and only finisher. I had 255 clients that had at least one session with me, but they didn't finish. They didn't finish. And I had authors who met with me every week for a year and still didn't finish. And our average time now for people to write a book is 3 days. So they had spent a year with me and not gotten it done. And I could not, for the life of me, figure out why. And then this happened. And interestingly, I think someone is in the room who was actually there that day. I was at a mastermind when I was handed this note. I was actually at an event that Kevin Nations was running at his home. We called it Spa Nations. And the guy sitting next to me passed me this note. It says, "Why haven't you written your book yet?" I don't know. I must have been complaining about something that was challenging. And he slid me this note across the table. And it was a really good point. I had ghostwritten 29 books. I had worked on 56 books, but I hadn't written my own book yet. And that was a huge breakthrough. That event was in August, and I wrote my book in November, and I did it in 3 days. And it was mostly to answer this guy at the event. Like, I just didn't write it because I've been busy. I was very defensive, but I discovered so much about myself in the process of actually writing it. So many ways that I see in the chat. I needed help pulling it out of my brain. I was dealing with anxiety and depression. I definitely had some questions about if I was good enough. I was afraid of being seen. I was managing my inner critic. I had too many ideas. I had already written so many books, but none of them were my book with my name and my system for writing a book. And I was afraid of being judged. It wasn't that I didn't know how to write a book. I'd written 29. So it wasn't the tactics. There was something else. And it was in the process of writing this first book, which is called The Difference, 10 Steps to Writing a Book That Matters. It was in the process of writing The Difference that I created the Difference process, which is how you free your inner author. And I'm going to teach you that process today. I didn't have my own book, even as a book coach. And that was why I had 255 of 256 books that were not finished, authors that didn't finish, because I was holding space without realizing it, not consciously, but I was holding space for their excuses because I had some excuses of my own. And a lot of them came down to a lack of clarity about what I really wanted from my book. So part of me wanted, and maybe this is you, I wanted to focus on the craft of writing. I wanted to develop my platform and keep creating content. And I was on the slow road or on the struggle boat, hoping that lightning would strike. And I saw that happen for people. It happened for Glennon Doyle. It happened for Elizabeth Gilbert. She was a magazine writer for 20 years. It happened for Brene Brown after 20 years of being an academic. There were so many people who I should put Marianne Williamson in there, who things just magically happened for. But I really wasn't yet a transformational author. I wanted to be, and if you build it, they will come. I just wanted to write something and have people find it. But a transformational author, and this is what I discovered was required for me to free my inner author. A transformational author focuses on service. They're willing to be good enough. They're willing to get help by funding their own endeavors and betting on themselves. They're willing to keep creating content, but they're committing to service even if it makes them uncomfortable. And that's people like Oprah, Tim Ferriss, Brendan Burchard, Brooke Castillo, Louise Hay. It said Richard Kiyosaki. Is that who it is, or is it Robert? The Rich Dad, Poor Dad guy. Just blanked on his name. So to free your inner author, you do need all the tactics. And I, for sure, this first kind of author, by the way, this is the author that fails. So 99.5% of If You Build It, They Will Come authors that focus on the craft, being the best writer, all of that, 99% fail. A couple of them win the lottery. It's transformational authors that win every time. So if you're 100% committed, I'm only focusing on the craft, I'm doing it for myself, this is not service, this is just about me expressing myself and I don't care who reads it, probably not going to get a ton out of this training, and you could go, I don't know, shovel the snow depending on where you are. If you are committed to making a difference with a book, meaning getting it into people's hands and hearts and changing their lives, you have to commit to becoming a transformational author. And that is how you free your inner author. So you do have to address these concerns. Who am I to write a book? How do I find the time? What do I do about the fact that I'm not a good enough writer? I never will be. Maybe I'm not well known enough. I need to build a following first. All of these things and many, many more. We have to overcome these fears. And the thing that gets you over these fears like, I don't want to promise and then break a promise to myself. So many people have written books on this topic. I don't know how to pick the right topic. What if I am successful and people treat me differently? I'm not good at the technical stuff. I'm just not a technical person. What if the book sucks? What if it's not original enough? What if I do it wrong? Which of these fears are sounding like you? You can pick one from my screen or share another one. What's the biggest fear that has stopped you from writing your book or writing your second book? Identifying these is key to getting your book done. So go ahead and put in the chat, which is the fear that has stopped you? What I will tell you is that all of the tactics I am about to teach you, and I'm going to walk you through every tactic you need to know, all of them will fail if we don't get this right. Disappointing my agent, I don't know how to do it, learning the marketing, will I get my investment back, who am I to write the book, I'm not organized enough, I have to get organized, fear of commitment, fear of failure, it goes with fear of success. Barbara's like all of the above, yes. Do I have enough material, self-confidence, self-doubt, who am I to write this book? That's the number one I hear. I've got a great answer for that. What if I'm not successful? What if I do it wrong? Yeah, great contributions. Here's the news. You're normal. You're normal. There's no one I've met. I'm spending a lot of time these days with Marianne Williamson. All of these comments have come up. We're working on her next book. We've talked about past books. It doesn't matter how successful you are. Fears are normal. That's what the ego does. And looking at them like you guys all just did, and if you didn't put one in the chat, now is the time to do it. Looking at them is one of the big keys to overcoming them, because now we can tackle it. Now we can tackle it once we know. There will always be, guaranteed 100% of the time, there will always be a good reason not to get your book done. Money, time, you're sick, your kid's sick, there's a pandemic, you lost your job, you got a new job, you fell in love, you broke up. Life is going to keep lifing. That is my guarantee to you. That is my guarantee. I'll share with you stories of a lot of my authors today. None of them, I do have one author who's like this, but none of the authors I will share with you today were just like, I have nothing to do. I have tons of money. I'm perfectly healthy. I think I will write a book. They were all dealing with relationship issues, wellness issues, business issues, not necessarily all the issues at the same time, but all of those issues were happening for everyone. So that's part of it. It's how do I write a book while that's happening, not how do I get that to stop happening. The number one rule for making a difference with a book is it has to get done. It's not the only rule, but it is the number one rule. So I'm going to officially introduce myself right after I take a sip. Hopefully you have figured this out, but I am Dr. Angela Lauria. And this presentation today is going to teach you how to free your inner author and make a difference with a book. At the end of today's presentation, I will make you an offer to work with me. That is not the purpose of the presentation, but what I have found is when I do these presentations, a lot of people want to know about working with us because I am going to share stories and what we do. And if that is you, I want you to know that's coming. Don't spend time thinking about it. Spend time focusing on today's workshop. Then at the end, I'll share with you how you can work with us and I'll answer those questions. But I want you to be focused and in the moment now. Whether you want to write a book because you have a personal story to tell, this is part of your purpose or calling, you're ready to quit your corporate job and focus on helping people. If you want to spend more time with family and have the life of being an entrepreneur, if you want to have money to travel when the time comes to travel, if you want to be able to have money and time for self-care without feeling guilty that you're taking away from your family or your job, if you want to be able to invest in your personal and spiritual growth, if you want to make your friends and family proud, especially your kids, to know you've achieved your potential and to show others what is possible for you. These are the most common reasons that people tell me that they are writing a book. And if that is you, if one of those resonated with you, then I want you to be here for this, not for what's coming next, but to actually feel yourself connecting. Take a deep breath or two. Feel your feet on the floor. Usher your soul into your body. Be present. Turn off your phone, unless you're using it to take notes, but turn off your rings and your bings and your bongs. Get up now and shut your door. Or go somewhere quiet where you're not going to get interrupted. Because what I am teaching today can change everything for you. But not if you don't do it. Not if you're half in and half out. I want you to be all the way here for what's possible for you, for your family, for your readers. Fully tuning in to what would things be like if you really freed your inner author? How could you create a new world for yourself and be a part of us as we create a new world? So here's what you will learn today. Look, even the best book in the world cannot make a difference if it doesn't get into people's hands, hearts, and change their lives. So we're going to talk about freeing your inner author, but then what do we do with it? Today's training is for people who are not satisfied with just writing a good book, not just freeing your inner author, but they want to be a transformational author. So you're going to learn how to free your inner author and get your book done, how to get your book into people's hands, how to drive revenue to support your movement so you can make a bigger difference, and how to go deep with your readers to create transformation. So these are the secrets that our incubated authors have been learning for the last 5 years that we've been doing it. I'm going to share all of that with you today. These are lessons hard learned, and they're here today, but it doesn't matter what I teach. It matters what you hear. And it doesn't even matter what you hear. It matters what you action, what you take action upon. That's what matters. So I don't want you to just listen to me talk and think, oh, she's cute up there. I want you to really connect all the way with what needs to happen for you to make a difference with a book. So with that, let's just set a quick intention together. And I'm just going to call into the space Source, God, however you think about the energy of the universe that connects us all, everything that is. We see in the middle of our mind's eye a little ball of golden light, and we watch that light as it grows larger and larger until now it covers the entire inner vision of our minds. And while we're separated by screens and time, we see in this golden light that we are all connected together in one garden lit by that same golden light. And we're here for we have been drawn together by the power and in the presence of God. And we watch as this light grows larger and larger. And as we sense the presence of God, the universe, all that ties us in this light, we realize that we have the ability to be a force for good. And we ask God now that we be used as messengers for the message of truth, of creating the holy instant for all those we touch. We ask that we be surrounded by angels above and below, in front and behind, to our right and to our left, and that these angels push us forward as we step into our career as authors. We ask that we be used to the highest and best for all. And while we'll be learning on the earthly plane, we ask that this golden light continue to connect us to source and truth in all that we do. So as we return now to the training, we can still feel this golden light. Taking a deep breath and focusing on the center of our forehead, seeing that golden light spinning right in our forehead, knowing that we are connected, and anytime we need it, we can tap into this light. And coming back into the room with the intention that we be used for the highest and best purposes. And so it is. Together we all say, amen. And just taking that moment to remember through all of the marketing I'm about to share with you and the pretty pictures where, I had someone doing my makeup that you see on this screen, that the truth is when we talk about making a difference, we talk about sharing the work that we are meant to share. Yes, this is about writing, and we'll talk about that. I promise we're going to get there. But that's not really what this is about. This is about being of the highest service. So it says here, I created the Author Incubator to help people like you make the difference they were born to make. But that's not about your ego. That's about you living into the full potentiality of being God's creation. It's not to satisfy your ego so that you get 100,000 followers on Instagram. It's so that you do the work and you act as an angel that you are meant to be on this planet, helping and serving. So it is nice to meet you and connect with you. I will, let's see, make my face a little bit bigger here and just share with you. I am the founder of the Author Incubator, founded in 2013, minutes before I turned 40. I was freaking out about turning 40. I had been a ghostwriter and an editor. I worked primarily on technology books, espionage books, and political books. I am in Washington, D.C., and I am a political activist. I am a member of the LGBTQ community, and I have been passionate since skipping school when I was 13 to go to an apartheid protest. I'm the only kid that skipped school to go to protests, but where I met Jesse Jackson, who my son is named after, and I became a political activist, worked on many campaigns, and found that my personal growth work was essential to my political commitments. That to change the world, you have to start with yourself and do your own work. And so the work that I do at the Author Incubator took my passion for changing the world and my experience ghostwriting books and writing books for politicians and for technology companies and growing leads and driving business, and combined my passion of making the world a better place with my experience as an author. So I created the difference process through a little bit of trial and error. It took me a couple years to nail that process, but in that time, we have managed to get 1,500 authors published. Every single one of them is an Amazon bestseller. We have I should say I very proudly brag about that. 24 millionaires, 76% of our authors generate $100,000 or more from their book. Our authors finish over 99% of the time. It is the highest of any book coach in the world. We do provide self-publishing support, but we're really an editorial team, book strategists, book coaches, and we have a little boutique publishing company as well. A lot of people think of me as their publisher, but really my zone of genius, the thing I would say I am best in the world at, is being a developmental editor, helping you figure out how to write your book, how to structure it so that it will sell, it will make you fuck tons of money, it will change thousands of lives, and it will make the difference it's born to make. In addition to being an editor and a ghostwriter and a publicist and a social media marketer, I am also a Martha Beck certified life coach. And I've got 3 degrees in communication. So I did my bachelor's degree in journalism at the George Washington University. My goal was to become the first campaign manager for the first female campaign manager for a presidential candidate. Sadly, I lost that title to Kellyanne Conway, which seems weird, but okay. But that was supposed to be my election, 2016. I wanted to be campaign manager for a presidential candidate. That did not work out that way. I never finished my political science degree and instead converted to journalism. And somebody commented on my shirt. It is Black History Month as we're filming this, and I got it from Target. Target, Black History Month. Let's go. So you can get it right now too if you're watching this live. If you're on the recording, I don't know, hit me up. We'll see if we can track one down for you. So I double majored actually in journalism and theater, and I was specifically focused on theater for social change, social justice theater, and worked on a lot of the Vagina Monologues presentations and some Amnesty International theater work, performance art. I went on to do my master's degree where at the time I was focusing on deaf theater. And so I worked on deaf theater and how some issues with deaf culture and the distribution of technology. At the time, I'm going to date myself, but at the time, pagers were hot, and the deaf community had these amazing pagers, which were basically like smartphones, but we didn't know what smartphones were because I was on a StarTAC flip phone when I was in grad school. But I did get a degree in media and public affairs. My master's degree also from the George Washington University. And then I went on to do my PhD at the European Graduate School, where I studied theater for social change. My PhD is in communications. And a lot of what I learned and a lot of my theater background actually goes into how our books are so successful. So it's a weird combination. But I was interested in how do you create change? I've done that with my 5 Amazon bestsellers. I mentioned The Difference, 10 Steps to Write a Book That Matters. The Incubated Author, 10 Steps to Start a Movement with Your Message. Make 'em Beg to Publish Your Book, Make 'em Beg to Be Your Client, and Make 'em Beg to Work for You. Those are my 5 books. I have a 6th book coming out this year on how to create an online program. And like I said, we've created a lot of 6-figure and 7-figure entrepreneurs. I'll share a couple of them with you just so you get a sense. This is Erica Flint. She's actually working on book number 4 right now. Lighter, Reprogramming Your Weight, and Can You Be a Hypnotist were 3 of her books. It will not surprise you. She is a hypnotherapist, and her new book is called Academy of Eternity, which is amazing. Dr. Shauna Menard is the author of Free to Heal and the 6-Figure Health Coach. Shauna is in Canada. We have authors all over the world. We've had authors in Thailand, Romania, England, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. Tammy Stackelhouse is in the Pacific Northwest, where she runs the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute. That was founded after her first book became a runaway bestseller, Take Back Your Life. Her second book is The Fibromyalgia Coach. So those are just a few of the books that we do. I will share lots more with you. You can find them on our website as well. Over 1,500. I clearly can't share them all. But what you'll notice is they are nonfiction books from authors with coaching or consulting businesses. Now, a lot of what I teach today will help you if you're doing fiction or a children's book. We publish cookbooks. All of these things will help you. All of the things I will teach will help you. But specifically what I will focus on is people like Erica, Shauna, and Tammy. Now, all of them came to me with established businesses. None of them had broken the 6-figure mark yet, but with their first book, they were all able to get to mid 6 figures. And now they are all, if not at 7 figures, very close. I know Shauna and Erica have cracked, and if Tammy doesn't crack this year, she sure will. So I think we'll make her our 25th millionaire. Tammy, by the way, has done this all, never working more than 20 hours a week. It will not surprise you to hear she also has fibromyalgia. And so her focus has been on building her business with a ton of time for family and for self-care. So You may have to translate what I am teaching if you don't do nonfiction for a business. Not everything I teach will work perfectly, but I know you'll still get a ton of value. Oh, and I do see in the comments, somebody is commenting on degrees. So I just want to share with you the fun variety. Erica Flint has a certification as a hypnotherapist. She is a 5-path hypnotherapist, so she does have a certification. Shauna Maynard is a doctor, so she's done all the degrees. And Tammy Stackelhouse is a high school dropout. So you can be anywhere from high school dropout to MD, and it will work what we teach. So anything works as long as you are passionate and committed and caring to make a difference. So 3 types of books we specialize in: client conversion books for established coaches and consultants. That's 80% of our business. And those are the 3 authors I shared with you. Platform building for brand new coaches and consultants who want to make sure they do it right and grow as quickly as possible. And then we also do memoirs and storytelling for influencers who want to build their following. So the question now is, in the core of your soul, do you know that there is a book in you? Maybe people have told you, or you just feel it. But are you ready to do what it takes to get that book out and change people's lives? If that sounds like you, go ahead and put a yes, and then I will know that I can move forward. All right. Fantastic. This is an example of what my clients' vision boards look like. So they're looking to get that TED Talk. They are looking to get that New York Times bestseller. They are ready to quit their job. They are ready to get in the media, speak at Omega, be in O Magazine, be interviewed by Oprah, be in the Super Soul Sunday 100. Speak in big audiences, travel the world. If this is your vision board, you are in the right place. This is what these steps do. If you're like, none of this is making sense to me, you may be in the wrong place. So that's something to consider. All right. I want to dive into what this means to be an author. I think I mentioned I'm 48. Am I 48? I will be 48. I'm 47 right now. I'm like, how old am I? I'm on my way to being 48, very proudly heading towards 50. And if you are 40 or older, then this may make sense to you. If you are over 40, you probably think about books in a pre-internet mindset. So if you remember when the paperbacks came out, being excited, first the hardback would come out and then the paperback would come out, you are probably thinking about authorship differently than what is going to allow you to be successful in today's environment. So the old world, the world when I was growing up, the Walden Books world, was primarily focused on the relationship between publishers, distributors, and bookstores. And in order for your book to sell, there was really only one way your book was going to sell. And that is, all of these gatekeepers had to come into play. You had to get an agent, and usually the agent picked you based on how good your idea was. Then you had to get a publisher, which had to do with your agent's relationship with the publisher and how much they trusted you. Then the publisher had to pour all this money into getting your book into bookstores. They had to pay distributors. They had to get your book on those front table displays. They had to get posters in the window. They did this with something called co-op marketing money. So they would pay for shelf space. This still happens, by the way. But they had to get your book seen. Because where do people buy books? We used to walk around the mall or walk around the bookstore, and then we'd see a display and we'd walk in and we would browse. Do you remember browsing? And maybe, just maybe, and think of the number of times you did this. Think of all the books you bought in your 20s. Maybe you heard it on the radio, or you saw it in a magazine, or you saw it on Oprah, and you went to the bookstore and you went up to the counter and you said, could you look up this book? Do you have Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain? Maybe, just maybe, you did that. But probably you walked around the store shelves like you walk around the grocery store. And if a book looked good, you would pick it up. And while you may not have realized it, a lot of the books that you liked were the ones on the end caps or the shelf displays or turned out. Like, you know, for a book to be turned out on a bookshelf like that, you pay more than if it's spine out like this. Did you know there was a charge for that? Well, all of that work is business to business marketing. Business to business marketing. And that used to matter a lot, and now matters a lot less. So the big difference is that I love, somebody else got my shout out to Shakti Gawain. She died last year. So sad. She was one of my favorite authors. The big difference is the control of the mechanism of purchasing was a business function. And therefore, it was a seller's market. There was lots of demand. People like me and Elizabeth and Amina and Laney, we're all walking around the store. There was a lot of demand and there was very little supply. There was just what was in the bookstore. There was limited shelf space. On average, a bookstore had 250,000 books. So broad topics did better because there were very few books in the store. And as an author, only the luckiest made it. You had to get through all those gatekeepers. You had to have so much luck. Now, publishers and agents and bookstores were highly selective, and it was very hard to get through. But readers knew pretty much everyone that gets through is good, and authors made their living from book sales. And maybe when you signed up for Free Your Inner Author, and I do provide, I do agree. These are our authors' books here, and I love paper books. Although our ebooks do sell better, I'm not gonna lie. But when we were walking through those bookstores, there were so few authors comparative to the buyers that authors could make a good living off of writing and publishing books. And maybe when you signed up for this, you're like, I'm going to learn how to write and publish books. Now the people who make enough money to live off of books already have a big following. Now, does it sometimes happen? Does it sometimes happen that you could win the lottery? Sure. You could have a runaway hit. Is this training going to teach you how to win the lottery and have a runaway hit? No. How do you do that? Spend the next 20 to 30 years going to writers' workshops. And I'm not saying don't. I'm all for it. But there's no secret to being that kind of author I mentioned earlier. If you build it, they will come author. That's just about spending 20, 30, 40 years slaving away. Maybe in year 2, you have a runaway hit and you never have another one. It's just not something I can teach. But luckily, there is a new type of entrepreneurship. And it's been accelerated. This started with the introduction of the internet, but it has been dramatically accelerated with COVID. And it goes like this. It cuts out all that B2B marketing. And this is for print books, ebooks, audiobooks, books that you whisper in people's ear in the night. It's just, we're not talking about the type of book at all. This applies to every kind of book in every format. And this is a disintermediated strategy where we remove the agents, the publishers, and the bookstores, and we focus on how most people are buying now. So what's happening now is it's a buyer's market. There's much more supply, many more authors, and there's much less demand. Now we're competing with Netflix and all of the internet and so much more free information and so many more authors. So buyers are now much pickier and they're looking for niche topics. So because we have unlimited shelf space now, there's no end to the number of books. The books that sell best and make the most money target a small niche. Success no longer relies on luck, but it relies on the ability to connect with your readers. Instead of the publishers and the bookstores being the selective ones, now the selective ones are the readers. So it's essential that you write the right book. It's essential you write the right book. So here's the old way. You might have been thinking about this for your book. So before we go into the 10 steps that you'll follow, I have to clear up some misperceptions you may have. The old way still works for a few, but it's very select few and it's not learnable. It requires a lot of luck. Other people determine your fate. If you have $500,000 sitting around, you could probably make marketing investments that would make up for that. In some ways, that's what Tim Ferriss did. Usually requires a lot of travel, obviously not now, but an insane schedule, very low profit margins, and it's a highly complex business with a high burnout rate and very low satisfaction in this current environment. The glory of the old days of being an author is not there. It's completely different. And I can tell you, Marianne Williamson and I have spent many nights staying up talking about this. So the current business plan for the general market is do as many marketing activities as possible. And that means you have to be on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and Clubhouse and Facebook and Pinterest and Telegram. And then the goal is to just be everywhere and only you can do it. Sell as many books as possible, make a mystery amount of money, wait for the phone to ring and you'll get invited to speak. Take advantage of those opportunities to the maximum of your ability and make a mysterious amount of money. And then maybe create some offerings and sell as many as possible if a pandemic doesn't shut you down. And here is the problem with an as many as possible business model. It does not create a sustainable, repeatable business that builds momentum and gives you time for self-care. And that is a note you should take. As many as possible does not create a sustainable, repeatable business that builds momentum and gives you time for self-care. It just doesn't. As many as possible will wear you the heck out. As many as possible will wear you the heck out. And this is the business plan most authors have. And it reminds me of my favorite episode of South Park. How many South Park fans are out there? I'm going to share this with you. Hopefully the sound will come through. Here we go. It's my favorite South Park episode.
This is where all our work is done. So what are you going to do with all these underpants that you steal? Collecting underpants is just phase one. Phase one, collect underpants. So what's phase two? Hey, what's phase two? Phase one, we collect underpants. Yeah, but what about phase two? Well, phase three is profit. Get it? I don't get it. You see, phase one, collect underpants. Phase two, phase three, profit. I get it.
So, oh, you don't need a VRBO ad. We'll stop that and we'll stop this. So that is the old way of doing it. Phase one is write the best book in the world. And then phase two is do some things. And then phase three is profit. How does this possibly create sanity? How does this allow you? Oh, you guys heard it, but you didn't see it. Okay, hold on. I will show you that video again, but I need a minute. Yes, hold on. We'll get you going. Let's see. So how is it possible that you could live a sane life without an actual business plan? So I'm going to share this one more time with you guys. This time, hopefully with video. I got some good advice for that. You heard it, but you didn't see it. Here we go. Just because it's fun and it's only 30 seconds.
This is where all our work is done. So what are you going to do with all these underpants that you steal? Collecting underpants. This is where all our work is done. So what are you going to do with all these underpants that you steal? Collecting underpants is just phase one. Phase one, collect underpants. So what's phase two? Hey, what's phase two? Phase one, we collect underpants. Yeah, but what about phase two? Well, phase three is profit. Get it? I don't get it. You see, phase one, collect underpants. Phase two, phase three, profit. I get it. This is where all our work is done.
All right, that time we got the video working. So that's my favorite South Park episode. And that is what most businesses as authors look like. They're out there saying things like, should I get on Clubhouse? Is it ebooks? All of these questions are tactic questions. But the way that we actually can free our inner author is by having a business plan that makes some semblance of sense. And so that's what I call the new way of doing it. It's the specialized market. You create your own success. You can create a business plan. You determine your fate. Maybe you'll travel, but you control your schedule. You can do it in 20 hours a week, like Tammy Stackelhouse did. It's the most profitable, highest job satisfaction with the least amount of hustle. So while it may not match up with the image in your head that you had of writing a book in a cabin in Maine and then people buy it, it doesn't really work that way. So I am going to make this a little bit bigger to just quickly walk you through this process, and then I'll go back again. But What we use a book for, instead of the bottom of the funnel, instead of the revenue, instead of writing a book, and this is why it doesn't work perfectly for fiction or poetry, but it does still work. There are some twists on it, but you gotta sell something other than the book. The book is used for awareness. That's how you get in front of other people's audiences. Then we give the book or a chapter or a class away to people who want to know more, and we build our list. This is how you build your platform. We get followers in social media, we build our email list, and we use the book to grow our following. Then some of those people, a small number, 10%, will become prospects. Those are people who will consider buying from you. And maybe you're selling speaking, maybe you're selling consulting, maybe you're selling coaching, maybe you have a product, but the purchase is not of your book. The purchase, oops, looks like I moved that. The purchase that we're focused on is not necessarily of your book, but of all the other things that you sell. So this is why our authors make on average $150,000 from their book. And many of our authors make closer to $500,000 because they have a specialized author business plan, and we customize it for them, where they're looking at how many leads do I need to get for my book each month? How many of what thing will I sell, and how much will I sell it for? So this is a coaching model. If you're a coach or a consultant, this might make sense. If you got 16 leads a month, that would be 192 annually, which is a very small number. If you were selling 192 books in a bookstore, you would make about $192. Most authors make about $1 a book. So that'd be 192 bucks, enough money to buy a pair of shoes. Here, with 192 of the right book buyers, we will have 48 clients, about 4 clients a month. And this is what we see for most of our authors. They can get 1 new client a week from their books. And if that client was a $3,000 client, which is why we teach creating high ticket coaching and consulting packages, at $3,000, you would be making $144,000 a year just by getting 16 of the right readers a month. This is a sustainable plan that allows you to work 20 to 30 hours a week. You don't have to do Clubhouse. It doesn't matter if you have ebooks or audiobooks. What matters is that you have the right business plan. And the 3 reasons why most people don't make the difference they say they want to make is they either don't have a plan, their plan is underpants, they have a terrible plan, or they're avoiding executing a good plan. So give me a number in the chat, 1, 2, or 3, if you are not making the difference that you want to make as an author, if you want more readers, if you want more revenue, if you want more book sales, if you want more clients, it's got to be one of these 3. So give me a number. Is it 1, don't have a plan? You're on the underpants plan. 2, you have a terrible plan that isn't working. Maybe you've got phase 1 and phase 3. So some people have never thought about it at all. Some people don't have a plan because it never crossed their mind there should be a plan. Some people have a terrible plan because they got the gnomes running their business. And some people know the right way and they just aren't doing it. So 1, 2, or 3. I see a lot of 1s, a lot of 2s, a couple of 3s. Awesome. 1, 2, 3. These are the answers. So you got to have a plan and you got to execute it. If you're not executing it, you have to figure out why, or just you don't have to figure out why. Just be happy with not knowing. That's also fine. So we have the luck approach, which is the general market, low ticket approach. And then we have the specialized niche, high ticket approach. 50 clients at $2,500 is a $120,000 business. Very easy to get one client a week from a book. For me, a book that makes a difference is one that gets into people's hands, gets into their hearts, and turns your readers into followers, fans, clients, and community. They're the people that you are here on a, I don't know, I really do think of it as on a mission from God to touch and reach. They are your soul contracts in action. And that's my goal as I tell you the difference process. A book that makes a difference is not going to make a difference sitting behind an unclicked link on Amazon or sitting on your hard drive. That means you've got to write the right book. You've got to write the right book. And just trying harder on your own is unlikely to reach that result. So even now, if you're thinking things like, I want to write a book about self-love, confidence, happiness, surviving a life transition, overcoming self-doubt, authenticity, motivation, inspiration, this is not the right book. This is not the kind of book that can make the difference we're talking about. We just won't sell those $3,000 packages. It won't lead us to readers that become clients. A specialized book focuses on weight loss, career change, surviving divorce, quitting addiction, parenting, making money, saving money, business building, writing a book, overcoming an illness. So we talked about those. Can I be a hypnotist? That's career change. We talked about that with Erica's book. What's her other book? It's on weight loss. I know I have it right here. Lighter, I think, is one of her books. Reprogram Your Weight. Those are weight loss books. Fibromyalgia, Take Back Your Life from Fibromyalgia. That's overcoming an illness. That's Tammy Stackelhouse's book. And who did I give you in the middle? Now I'm like, which other author did I tell you that? Shauna Maynard. Career change. So her book is How to Be a Six-Figure Health Coach. When we get specialized, you will still talk about self-love, confidence, prayer, overcoming self-doubt. I've talked about all those things today, right? I've talked about self-care, and I teach a lot about it. I've talked about confidence. I've talked about happiness. I've talked about being authentic. I've talked about self-doubt. I teach on all these things in the general category, but I have a specialized approach. And before we leave this workshop, we are going to figure this out for you. So here's how I figured this out. I'll tell you a little bit more about my story. First and foremost, I'm a reader. I've always been a reader. And I realized that the books that I was buying were solving problems. And I'm going to teach you a whole system to figure out your book. I gave you broad categories, but we're going to go into a much deeper part of the workshop where we're going to identify your book. But I just want you to see me as the ideal reader. First, I was in college. I was overweight in college. I was trying to get a job in theater. So I was looking for behind the scenes jobs, and I was also looking for weight loss books. Then when I was 29, I really wanted to be married by the time I was 30. I'd gone through a hard breakup, and I was looking for books on dating, romance. I think that's this section right here of my bookcase. So how do I find a partner? And like each one of these bookshelves is a different part of my life where I had a different problem. When I was 33, I was newly married and pregnant, I was newly married and trying to figure out why I couldn't get pregnant. I bought a lot of books on infertility. In a minute, you're going to do this timeline on your life as well. When I finally did get pregnant, yay, I did buy some infertility books, actually, quite a few. But then once I had a baby, he would not stop crying. I had a C-section hangover. I had postpartum depression, and I was reading books on how to get a colicky baby to stop crying, on postpartum depression, and all of those problems from that time in my life. Then I had some marriage problems where my husband started calling me names and threatening my safety. And I've got a whole bunch of books right over there on my bookshelf that were about domestic violence and overcoming being in a domestic violence relationship. Then I started a business and I got really busy. And this next section over here on my bookshelf are all my business books that are about hiring. So I suddenly found a lot of books about hiring. So what I want you to do is, and you can do this in a notebook or you can do it on your phone, but I want you to do your timeline, start around 18 and go to however old you are now. For me, that's about 30 years. And think about times in your life. Obviously, they won't match mine, but think about times in your life and what were the books that would solve your problem. So if we look at my weight loss problem, I was trying to lose weight. I read over 500 weight loss books. I had over 5,000 self-help books. I had done psychoanalysis 3 times a year. I did A Course in Miracles. I did Landmark Forum. I taught catechism at my local Catholic church, Holy Trinity. I did past life regression, energy work, crystal therapy, body love, medium readings, EFT. I had an endocrinologist. I did all the things you could think of. Okay. This was me in the ideal reader of someone trying to lose weight. Now, just reading books isn't enough to create transformation. I had, in fact, lost 70 to 110 pounds 4 times, and I gained it back. I'd done Jenny Craig, Nutrisystem, Slim Fast, Weight Watchers, personal trainers, a nutritionist, and then I found a transformational author. So Brooke Castillo wrote the book, If I'm So Smart, Why Can't I Lose Weight? Tools to Get It Done. And this is the book that became the template for how our authors make so much money and make such a big difference because of what happened in my life. I read the book and then I begged her to take me as a client. And I'm just going to read this because I know it's small. It says, "Hi, Brooke. Thanks so much for your amazing book. I gained 85 pounds with my first child who was born a year ago. I haven't been able to lose the weight. Since I pride myself on being smart, the title of your book caught my attention, and it's definitely one of the most inspiring books I've ever read. I've been working my way through the exercises you lay out, and I've lost about 20 pounds in 2 months. I still have plenty to lose, but I feel great already. I also went to the doctor and I learned I have postpartum hypothyroidism and polycystic ovarian syndrome, which probably isn't helping my case. The great news is I'm eating less than ever and I don't feel like I'm on a diet. I'm just being conscious. Just being conscious is making a huge difference in the quality and quantity of the food I eat. I'm registered for your Lake Tahoe retreat. But between now and then, I'd like to supercharge my weight loss. Really, I was fucking terrified of showing up and being the fattest person in the room at a weight loss event. I'd like to supercharge my weight loss efforts with a great coach. I'd love to work with you directly because I know you could help me get past some difficult hurdles in the journey. I believe the process would be rewarding for us both. Thanks for taking the time to consider working with me." Now, I want you to think, about how much different you can charge if someone is begging you to take them as a client. Literally, my last sentence is, I believe this process would be rewarding for us both. Would you please accept me as a client? Would you please accept me as a client? Game fucking changer. So if you get one email a week from someone who read your book and begged for you to work with them, can you see how everything in your life could change like that? And that's what happens for our authors. When I wrote that email, I had just been laid off. Money was super tight. My future was uncertain. My husband had hit me. He hadn't hit me at that point, but he was like threatening me with knives and things. I didn't know if I had to go to a lawyer. I didn't know what it meant about our money. My baby would not fucking stop crying, which was very annoying. I was in the middle of moving, which was sort of escaping my husband. I got a job like 6 hours away because I didn't want to get divorced. So I just like moved out and left him in the house. So I signed up right away for a retreat that was $1,250. And then I begged her to take me as a client. I borrowed money from my mom. I got a credit card. I knew I needed to solve this problem. I begged her to take me as a client. And over the year, I spent $14,000 to make sure I implemented what was in her book and what I learned at the event. And you don't have to do events. You can obviously do stuff like this on Zoom. Now, if she wrote a book about loving yourself, or even if she wrote one of the amazing books, like I love Malcolm Gladwell's books, there's nothing I want to email Malcolm Gladwell and hire him for. They're fascinating, but they're not something you can hire a coach or a consultant on. It's just interesting stuff to know. So this is when I really got it. This is when I got it. I had been, like I said, a ghostwriter and editor for technology and computer books and political books and espionage books. So I had all these practical writing and editing skills. I had all these skills from theater about how to change the world. All these books from activism and theater, my work with Vagina Monologues and Amnesty International and Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition. And then I combined that with this, bam, if you want to change someone's life, you have to write a book that makes a difference. And they all came together into the difference process, which is what I am about to teach you. This is the key. The key is finding that winning book idea. Now, what Brooke Castillo, if any of you follow the Life Coach School, you'll know Brooke doesn't really care about weight loss. She never has. She never did. That's not her thing. What Brooke cares about is teaching you how to be an emotional adult. It's still what she does on her podcast today and with her coach training program and self-coaching scholars. So what she's interested in, and I'll just go back here a minute, what she's interested in, it's the same stuff that I'm interested in, is all this general stuff. Self-love, confidence, managing your thoughts, overcoming self-doubt, surviving transitions, the motivation, authenticity, inspiration. That's all the stuff she's interested in. But what did she do to get to her first million? Weight loss. It doesn't mean you don't teach this stuff, but it means that we identify a very specific problem that you can solve, and that's how we create change. So here is the first exercise that I will have you guys do. I want you to think about, well, actually, it's the second exercise. So the first one was your timeline. That's where you go through and just very quickly, as I'm talking, when you were 18 to 21, what was your biggest problem that you would have bought a book on? When you were 22 to 29, what was the problem you would have bought a book on? When you were 30 to 35, what was the problem you would have bought a book on? Now, if you stop at 35, that's great. Otherwise, keep going. 35 to 45, what was going on in your life? And really think it through the way I did. Now, you might not be able to write books on all those topics. I certainly can't write a weight loss book, and I can't write a book on how to handle a colicky baby. I read those books. I didn't write them. But that's just teaching you the concept. There needs to be a specific problem. It's not confidence or self-love. It's a specific problem. Now we want to look at that list, and I want you to think about where your expertise lies. And we're going to, for our second exercise, I want you to draw 3 big circles on the page. And if you're using your computer, you could just write 3 columns: the market, your expertise, and your mission. And I want you to take a minute here and find your expertise. Now, with my clients, we will often spend 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 8 weeks identifying their expertise. So you may not be able to do this all perfectly right now, but take your best crack. It may not be what you want to write a book about, but identify what is something you are an expert in. Maybe it's building decks. Maybe it's feeding birds. Maybe it is gardening, weight loss. What is something you are an expert in? See if you can, in one column or in one circle, write all the things you have some expertise in. And I'll give you a second to do that. I'll pour a little tea. Okay, then the next column is the easiest one. It's your mission. What's the stuff you're most passionate about? God, thought work, love, that's all these general topics over here. Your mission: God loves you. You're perfect the way you are. We should spread your gift, spread the love, kindness. It's all these mushy things that you are here for God to work through you to teach your mission. So it's probably one of these general things. So we want specialized things for your experience, and then we want generalized things for your mission. And then we look at those 2 things, and we want to look at where is a place where your expertise would allow you to live your mission. So for me, I have expertise in writing books. My mission is to help women to use their voice. Women, minorities, people of color, people in the LGBT community, voices that are not normally heard, helping them to refine their message, amplify their voice, and get heard is my message. That intersects with writing a book. It would also intersect with speaking coaching. It intersects with theater. It would intersect with teaching people to write poems. So where does your mission intersect with your expertise? And then we want to ask ourselves, is there a market for that? Now, sometimes I'll come up with a list of 100 places for our authors where they have expertise they didn't even realize they had: dealing with a difficult mother, speaking your truth. Maybe it's getting ahead at work. Maybe it's writing a great resume. We go through that timeline exercise and we find all the areas where they have expertise. Okay. And then we cross them with their mission. We say, can there be a connection here? And then we ask, is there a market? Now, I see a lot of internet marketers that have found there is a market and they have the expertise, but it's not why they're on the planet. They're not and it was like me writing those technology books. I was able to sell a lot of computer books and make a lot of money. I had expertise in writing computer books, but that was just a job. It's great, pay the bills, but it wasn't making a difference in the way of representing God on the planet. Okay? So if you just have the market and you just have your expertise, you probably have a job. And then I see a lot of people, and this is probably you. It was Tammy Stackelhouse when she came to me. Tammy had this amazing expertise. She had fibromyalgia. She figured out how to make the symptoms go away. She repeated it over and over for other people with fibromyalgia. It was aligned with her mission, but she was charging on a sliding scale and making like $20,000 a year. That's basically a charity. That's not going to cut it. So she had expertise, she had a mission, but there was no real market until we created the International Fibromyalgia Coach Training Institute together over a weekend at my house. It was very fun. Okay. And then there are also people who are able to tap into their mission and find that marketplace. And frankly, I have a couple ex-employees who are doing this right now. They want to help people and they know there's a market there because they've seen how successful our authors are, but they just don't have the expertise. I see other book coaches out there that have done one fucking book badly. And it's a total scam. Like, I'm sure your mission is to help people. There sure is a market, but if you don't actually have the expertise, then you are just stealing money from people. So we're looking for your gold star idea. And that is where it sits. It's the intersection of your expertise, your mission, and the marketplace. Got it? Now, we spend a lot of time refining this, and you can refine it on your own. We do a lot of testing, but that is definitely the hard way to do it. I'm going to teach you the easy way if you want to learn, but here is the deal. We're about halfway through, and we're about halfway through. If you want to learn the easy way, give me a yes, and we're going to do a quick 30 to 90 second dance break. If you need to shake it out, go to the bathroom, refresh your drink. I'm just going to play a little song, and we're just going to do a quick 30-second countdown if you got to go do something. So if you want to learn the easy way, give me a yes in the chat, and we will take a little break.
March to my own drum, march to my own drum. Hey, hey, I'm an army of one. March to my own drum, march to my own drum. Hey, hey, I'm an army of one. Oh, I'm an army of one. Riders rocking here cause you don't like Mondays. Underpaid teacher, police in the hallways. Print yourself a weapon and take it to the gun range. Oh, cut the shit, you ain't going to the gun range. Standing with them and our sons and daughters, watching our youth have to solve our problems. I follow them, so who's coming with me? After you love me, half already hate me. March to my own drum. March to my own drum. Hey, hey, I'm an army of one. Oh, I'm an army of one. March, march to my own drum. March, march to my own drum. Hey, hey, I'm an army of one. Oh, I'm an army of one. Tell the old boys in the white bread lobby what they can and can't do with their bodies. Temperatures are rising, cities are sinking. Cut the shit, you know your city is sinking. Lies are truth and truth is fiction. Everybody's talking, who's gonna listen? What the hell happened in Helsinki? March, march to my own drum. March, march to my own drum. Hey, hey, I'm an army of one. Oh, I'm an army of one. March, march to my own drum. March, march to my own drum. Hey, hey, I'm an army of one. Oh, I'm an army of one.
All right, we're back. Give you a little of the Chicks. You guys Chicks fans? It's a fun one. All right, so we are going to now learn the easy way. I'm going to walk you through the difference process. I'm going to start. This is where you're going to need to take the most notes. This is going to teach you the process for making the maximum impact and the maximum revenue. So showing up as a servant for God, showing up in your life purpose, affecting the most people, being the person who makes the change, being the change you wish to see in the world. This is that process. I have taken thousands of people through this process. It works every time. Here we go. And I'm going to walk you through each of these. The first step is the one we just started with. It's the hardest. It's the one that determines success or failure. And if you think about a house that was built without a foundation, this first step to find your ideal reader is that golden book idea that's the foundation of everything. The whole house falls down without it. And if we get it right, we can fix almost anything pretty quickly, okay? So let's dive into these 10 steps. I won't talk you through each of them individually because I'm going to talk you through each of them individually. The first one is define your ideal reader. Now, this one's a bit of a paradox, but by identifying your experience, the market, and your mission, we're able to get very clear on who you want to help. And we are able to exponentially increase your chances. And I mean exponentially from 3% to like 99%. All by having a conversation with one person. Now, if your book is already written and you do not have an ideal reader, we fix that on the edit. If you haven't written a book yet, it's much easier because you write the book as a love letter to one person. It doesn't have to be romantic. It can be a business book, but we're just speaking to one person. Now, who is doing the speaking is step 2. And if you think about that example I gave you, If I'm So Smart, Why Can't I Lose Weight by Brooke Castillo, the ideal reader was me. Here I was, this desperate new mom who had gained 100 pounds when she was pregnant, needed to lose it, had lost her job, was losing her marriage, her weight was destroying her life. That book was a love letter to me. But what was just as true on the other side is Brooke, who was a coach, was very clear about who she was. That's how I knew I could hire her and write that letter begging to work with her. Agents of change have one thing in common. They don't create change from a place of force. They create it from a place of power. Do you guys know that book? I think it's like right there somewhere. Power versus Force. Where is it? It must be right behind me. One of the best books, really, of all time. Power versus Force, if you don't know it. That is one of the underlying keys of how one of the underlying keys of how our books are so effective is they're based not on force, but on power. So if you can be authentic and not manipulative, then your voice comes through clearly as a conversation. There has to be two people. The ideal reader is on one side of the conversation, and who are you on the other. So this is about identifying your voice. You would talk differently to your best friend's niece than to a potential client or an HR director. So we have to know who are you and who are they. And that changes our conversions dramatically. That's why so many people who read your book will send you letters like the one I sent saying, will you take me as a client? All right, the third thing, Stephen Covey says this, and I love it. It's when climbing the ladder of success, make sure it's leaned against the right building. So, he talks about beginning with the end in mind, right? The third step here is frame your outcome. That's the business plan that I started with earlier. We have that underpants plan. The fuck is that? I hope I get lucky. There's no scaffolding now for us to build the house. So the foundation is who you're writing for. The foundation of the house is the ideal reader and who you are. But now we need scaffolding. And the scaffolding requires that you have a plan. So the next thing we do is we build that business plan. Now, I know you're wondering, how does this free my inner author? When you know why you're doing something and how you're doing it, writer's block doesn't come up as much. And I'll just give you a quick example from life. When we used to go out to dinner, you might remember sitting around trying to figure out where to go for dinner. Where should we go for dinner? There's no plan. There's no structure. But once you pick the place for dinner, it's not that hard to get there. I mean, most of the time, you get in the car, you set your GPS, and you get to the place where you're having dinner. That is what our goal is with you. We want to frame your outcome so that we know where we're going for dinner. We have this whole business plan so that we can set the GPS and get there. Now, one of the things that will happen along the way is you might find it hard to write or get your book done, but we head that off at the path by having everything ready to go before you write, and you've identified what's the most productive place and time for you to write. We call this step 4, focus your author mojo. Now, your author mojo is what works for you, not what works for me. When I first started, I'll show you guys my first book. My very first book right here. When I first started, I worked for, this was an espionage book by David Wise. It's called Night Mover. And when I first worked on that book, that author was a morning person. And the way that he worked is I would get to the office every morning at 8 a.m. And his author mojo was that I be there while he writes to answer the phone, or if anyone knocked on the door, if anything happened, I could be organizing for him, which I think like soothed his little monkey mind. I could be organizing for him, and I could answer the door and answer the phone. So he would write, and his goal was 5 pages a day. And I would organize interviews, edit the pages he wrote the day before, answer the phone. In fact, the very first phone call I got at my very first job in publishing was I picked up the phone. I said, David Wise's office. And the woman on the other end said, this is Michelle. I have Jackie Kennedy Onassis on the line for David. I was like, please hold. I hope I don't mess up this transfer. Did anyone else ever have to transfer phone calls? So she was David's editor, Jackie Onassis, and he would write and he would know I was taking care of everything. And then he would reward himself. We were next door to a YMCA, and he would reward himself and go swim laps and then have lunch. And then in the afternoon, he would do his research and prepare for what he was going to write the next day. That's not your author mojo. That was David Wise's author mojo. So before you even write, we have to find your author mojo. I promise you have it, but our job is for you to be honest with yourself, and I will call you out on shit, so that you can find out those productivity patterns and we can create a schedule that will help you get this book done easily. So that's step 4, focus your author mojo. Step number 5 is envision your success. And envisioning your success is our law of attraction step. See the project done before you start. One of the big ways we do this is by starting with your publishing date. Starting with your publishing date. I got a shout out for my Tea Cozy. One of our authors bought this for me. He's actually my husband's best friend who also did a book with us, James Wilmot, and he bought that for me, and it's like my favorite Tea Cozy. So when you envision your success and you think, oh, I want to be a New York Times bestseller, really? Have you thought through what that means? What would that say about your relationship, your childcare? I want you to really think through what you want. You want your memoir optioned as a film? I want you to really see that. So we spend time visualizing goals. And one of the ways we do that is by setting the date that all of our authors will become bestsellers. We know in advance, and we set the date, their publishing date, when they will publish, and their bestseller status. So this is the last step I'm going to teach you before I take a pause. And if you have questions, you can put them into the chat. But this is one of the hardest steps for our authors. It is release your blocks. And most people start by writing. And unfortunately, when you start by writing, you write a book that's much harder to edit and much harder to finish. Usually, if you start by writing, you will not finish your book about 95% of the time. So we focus on your outline and getting that outline correct before you start writing. That's what I do with our authors. This is my zone of genius, making sure they're writing the right book. It's a book we know they can finish. It's a book we know is going to make a difference. It's a book that's going to get readers. It's a book that's going to convert clients. It's a book that's going to get people begging to work with them. So I'm going to go back. I didn't really mean to make that go away, but anyway, I'm going to go back to the 10 steps. Bring this up for you. And what I want you to see is all of this. If you want to actually make a difference, if you want to actually have a major impact, if you want to actually know for sure that your book is worth the time to invest, these first 6 steps have to happen before you start writing. If you write without defining your ideal reader, you simply will not have a book that is going to be powerful enough. It will be too general. It will be in that general market. And I don't know, I could be wrong. I mean, you could win the lottery, but if you write without an ideal reader, it's very unlikely you'll be successful. So if you've already written your book and you didn't do this, I would either edit it with this in mind or start over. If you do not identify your voice, you might write a book that gets readers, but it won't convert to clients. Your voice is what converts it to clients. If you don't frame your outcome, which is starting with the end in mind and having that business plan, without that business plan, you're going to be doing the underpants plan. And you know what happens when there's no phase 2. There's no phase 3. Phase 1, collect underpants. You're just wasting your time. You might as well have not done it. If you don't know in advance what your mojo is, like I talked about David Wise's mojo, you're not going to get your book done. And then you're going to be wondering why you didn't get it done, why you were stopped by procrastination. If you do just that little bit of extra work to prepare for that, you will be able to write. This is why most of our authors write their books in 3 days. But all this stuff has to happen first. Okay, the next one is envision your success. You can be successful in getting your book finished without the law of attraction, but let me tell you, the law of attraction makes it a lot easier. And when you're coming from that feeling first space, it's a huge game changer. So I really recommend that. And then step 6 here is releasing your blocks. And that is about knowing everything that goes in the book before you start writing. Now, step 7 is going to be about writing. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I want to take 1 second and just talk about these first 6 steps. For those of you who have written a book before or tried to write a book before, did you follow these first 6 steps? If you have not thought about these, heard about these, or done these, go ahead and share that. Have you followed these steps? Yes or no? What was your process like before you wrote? For most people, the reason they haven't freed their inner author is they haven't done these first 6 steps. The next step is the writing step. And that's really our free your inner author step. That's really where we're going to free your inner author. But then for your inner author to fly, the last 3 steps are where we generate all the revenue. So if you're like, how do her authors make all that money? Is she making that up? Nope, not making it up. Our authors make the money because they put in the time up front. Okay, so these were the first 6. And now we're going to go to step number 7, which is our writing step. Whoops. I'm going to get to step number 7. And step number 7 is establish your author feeling state. Now, we have a trick for why our authors write so quickly, and that is because they are writing from a place of joy and freedom. We have a 0 writer block environment. And we want our books to be 80% channeled by source. So we want you to be the faucet and for God to be the water flowing through you. And when you write, you are writing from this place of flow. And we're able to, when you do those first 6 steps, we're able to literally plug you into the God socket and have God write this book with you. I always say God is the co-author on all of our books. So nurturing your manuscript is the next step, and that is all about editing. You want to make sure you have an editor, a publisher, and a designer that understand your goals and are not pulling in different directions. I often watch authors' books fail because they don't have the right team behind them that really understands their vision and is in it from the beginning. Create Your Masterpiece is really about the publishing and the design side. So Nurture Your Manuscript is the editing side. Create Your Masterpiece is publishing and design. Those are steps 8 and 9. Step 8 is Nurture Your Manuscript. Step 9 is Create Your Masterpiece. That's making sure you have the right team and you've made the right investments in team and time. And finally, the marketing piece, expand your reach. So we start with this ideal reader, but we want a much broader reach. We want to be able to reach everyone by being specific. So the way we can reach that broader market is by expanding out in concentric circles. And that's what we teach you on the marketing side. I won't go too into that. I think I've got a couple more slides to run you through. I won't teach you too much right here in the steps. But once the book is written, then we need to expand your reach with marketing. So hundreds of people have done this. You can too. None of this is theory. This is how I built my business. This is the strategy that I figured out on my own journey, and now I've taught it to many people. So even with the 10 steps, I want to run you through a couple of quick pitfalls. The first one is you will sabotage if you don't get this one right. I'll tell you the story of Jen McRobbie. She's one of our authors, a life coach, a mom, a cancer survivor. She wanted to tell her cancer survival story, and her kids kept getting in the way. It was summer, and she had to keep putting time off. She had lots of reasons not to finish, and if she was on her own and didn't have a coach, she for sure would have sabotaged her process. She has an award-winning, best-selling book, Why Is She Acting So Weird? A Guide to Cultivating Closeness When a Friend is in Crisis. And she is a coach and a speaker. And to get her book done, the key for her was to become the person who wrote the book before she wrote it. Now, I know that might sound counterintuitive, but that is why we have Marianne Williamson on our staff. You see the real problem Marianne Williamson nailed in this poem and prayer from A Return to Love. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. Now, Marianne holds our author church every Wednesday, and we work through these deep fears. And that fear of being inadequate and the fear of being powerful are both sides of the same coin, which is separation from God. They're both the ego at play. And so to keep that ego in check, Marianne mentors all of our authors and helps them to make that connection that when we're aligned with Source and we're doing God's work, we don't have to be afraid of our success. We don't have to sabotage. Why do we sabotage? Because it's our ego acting out. Because we are feeling separated. We're not recognizing that we are like sunbeams to the sun, that we are like waves on the ocean. And when we reconnect and remember our soul purpose is our soul purpose, then we can get out of our own way. Now, the good news is you're normal. Marianne Williamson has been teaching about this for 40 years, and ancient wisdom goes back thousands of years. You think that writer's block, or I don't know how to do something technical, you think it's all those outer things. But when we fix your connection to source, you will see the way the leads will come to you, the way the book will flow through you, the way you can be of service because you are service embodied. It's not about the desire to help people, but it's about what you make that mean. And when you make it mean part of your mission, then the stars align. So it's not your fault, but if you've got a half-baked strategy, you don't have that business plan that we talked about first. If you've got half-baked tactics, I saw someone in the chat say, I've done some of these steps, but not all of them. So you don't have a process. And then on top of it, you're not plugged into source. You can see why you haven't freed your inner author. You can see why you're not making the difference. You just didn't know these things. The real key to writing a book that matters is managing the drama on the road to becoming the person who wrote the book, which essentially is just like weight loss. You got to have a strategy, you got to have tactics, but then there are challenges. When you go to start writing, there will be challenges. For us, we have that plan in place. What's the plan in place? You'll work with Marianne. If you're doing this on your own, what is the coach? What's the way? Because it's not that your ego is not going to show up. So what's the way you will manage the drama? You will manage the ego. You will manage the fear and insecurities, just like weight loss. I decide on Jenny Craig. I order the food. I chop the vegetables. And then my best friend stops inviting me to hang out on her couch for ice cream night because she doesn't want me there now that I'm losing weight. And what do I think? Maybe I'll start drinking again, or maybe I'll start eating or drinking. Somehow I will sabotage it. So white knuckling this doesn't work. For those of you, I know some of you in the chat said you've been trying to write a book for 30 years. White knuckling doesn't work. You can't beat your inner author up into wanting to come out and play. One of the things I always say is that your inner author is like a 7-year-old girl. And I always picture having tea parties with my dolls. Did anybody ever have tea parties with their dolls? At least the ladies who are there. So if you imagine that you're knocking on the door of a 7-year-old's house and you've got dolls and you've got a little teapot and a teacup and you want to have a tea party and you knock on the door and your inner author, who's a 7-year-old girl, opens the door and you say, do you want to have a tea party? But behind you, she sees 2 guys with AK-47s pointed in her face. She is not going to be like, yeah, let's go have a tea party. She's going to scream and shut the door, right? And that's what we do to our inner author. We try and beat ourselves up into making the difference we want to make. It doesn't work that way. If you want to make a difference, you have to learn to act and think and make decisions like the person you will be when you have the thing you want. So I've been really into Katie Milkman's work. She is a behavioral scientist. Her book, How to Change, I think is fantastic. I also love Joe Dispenza's work. I just heard Katie Milkman, though, on Planet Money this week as we're recording this, and just about this week. And this is what she says the answers are. She says, put money on the line. Surround yourself with an engaged community. Break up the steps into tiny steps. And then one of my favorite things, which is celebrate to rewire the behavior. And we spend a lot of time in celebration to rewire that behavior. So behavioral scientists agree it is both and. There needs to be the mindset, the spirituality, the alignment. That's all a piece of it. And we need strategy, deadlines, step-by-step tactics, marketing and sales skills, editing, and copywriting. Both and. It's not either or. So you don't want to hire a coach that's just a mindset coach. You don't want to hire an editor that's just an editor. But working with a team like the Author Incubator, you have Marianne Williamson and our other coaches on mindset. And then you've got me and our other editors and marketing experts on that side of the equation. So if you have ever felt like, well, I'm trying and it's not working, everything I say, I'm not selling as much as I want to sell, I'm not getting invited to speak, I'm not getting the exposure that I want to get, this is the next story I want to share with you. It's Caroline Green. When she found me, she was brand new. She was still in coaching school. This is one of those platform building books I talked about. She was unclear about her niche. She had spent a lot of money on website and business cards. She had no list, no clients, and this is what she said to me. She said, I want to write a practical and hysterical self-care guide for exhausted and courageous mamas who are tired of doing everything for everyone but themselves. I want to call it Goodbye Martyr Mom, Hello Free Mom. This book will explore the ways we as mothers buy into the myth that the mama has to sacrifice everything for everyone else to be happy. Consider what our lives, our families might look like if mama was getting some of that love, and learn practical tools, tips, and techniques to care for ourselves while meeting the needs of our loved ones. Why? Because loving yourselves means loving others better. That's what Caroline said in her application. Great concept, but it's a big invisibility cloak. To make a difference, you can't impose your wish on your prospective readers. You have to address the problem that they have. So the way that we do that is by identifying what the actual problem is. So when you look at her books, instead of writing from Martyr Mom to Free Mom, she wrote Matter, how to find meaningful work that's right for you and your family. Now you know how you do that with self-care, because when mom loves herself more, everyone is better. So this is a guide to self-care, but it is in the context of finding a job. Her second book was called Next, How to Grow a Successful Business That's Right for You and Your Family. Again, in the context of vocation. So Caroline was able to go from 0 to about $25K a month working school mom hours between drop off and pickup. Why? Because she learned how to frame her problem. And she was able to actually sell this solution before she wrote the book. She took out ads in a school directory. She got space from the local library that was next door to the school. She ran free workshops. She actually charged a little for her workshops. I think they were like $99, kind of like this workshop. She made a little bit of money. She got client stories for her book. And then she was able to sell her service to those people when the book was done. Now, traditional publishers, and how many of you put in the chat if you're thinking you want a traditional publisher, you want or you have an agent and you want a traditional book deal? Traditional publishers only care how many books you'll sell. That's it. They only make money when books sell. And then they take 90% of the proceeds, literally, that's the number, between 80 and 95%. And when you sell coaching or consulting, or when you get hired to speak for a corporation, or when you're speaking at retreats, your publisher's not making money on that. So they don't care. They only care about book sales. So if we write a book that has people begging for you to be their coach or their consultant, but it doesn't sell a lot of copies because it's super niche, publishers won't be interested in it. In fact, if you actually solve the problem for the reader, they will stop buying books on that problem. So publishers like for people to keep their problem. If you are a first-time author that wants to make money, traditional publishing is usually a bad strategy. Traditional publishers don't want you to succeed. If you don't have enough followers for them to make money from you, there's nothing in it for them. It just doesn't make sense. And by the way, the main thing publishing does is get you in bookstores where no one is shopping anymore. People are buying print ebooks and audiobooks online. So if you're making money in ways they can't access, and if you're selling books directly, then you're just crowding the marketplace. And publishers don't want you to succeed. So when I talked to you about Brooke Castillo and that weight loss story, that coach that I hired, this picture, I'm going to make it bigger so you can see it. This picture, you will see me in the bottom row all the way on the end. This picture was a brand new author. Brooke is in the middle. She's brand new. She had just written the book. It was within the first year of writing it. There were 17 people at the event. The event was $1,250. So you can do the math there, $1,250 times 17 people. She already made money, and she had expenses because she was doing this event. And then at the event, she sold a coaching package, and 16 people bought this coaching package. This one event with this many readers, not even that, I mean, like, can you imagine? Look at this and tell me, yes or no, can you imagine having this many readers? Do you think you could find this many people to engage with your book? And we often think about millions, right? But do you think you could find 17 people if you wrote the right book? I'm going to promise you I will have no problem helping you. And this was the post that Brooke wrote. She said, last week, one of my dreams came true. Now, the dream, envision your success. And then when climbing the ladder of success, make sure it's leaned up against the right building. Last week, one of my dreams came true. I had a retreat for a group of brilliant, talented, beautiful women. I was one. The only way I can describe this experience is magical. It was supportive collaboration at its absolute best. The weather was perfect, the scenery breathtaking, the calendar of the women outstanding, astounding. We all felt so lucky to be in each other's company. We laughed, we cried, we laughed, we said things that were scary to say out loud. We held each other in supportive silence without trying to rescue each other. We truly lived the metaphor that is the best way to help the butterfly break out of the cocoon is to be a butterfly. Although I ran the seminar and I was the facilitator, I felt more like a witness to the magic. More than just a coach, I created a space where they could reveal who they really are. And without fail, the quality that emerged was love. Funny, kick-ass, smoking hot love. I thank each and every courageous woman who spent her time and energy with us. It was truly one of my favorite dreams come true. What would it be like to make that dream come true for your readers? What would that be like? Everything about that event changed my life forever. And she was a brand new coach. She had no list. She had a really dumb fucking website and no social media following. She wasn't even on social media. No publisher in the world would have accepted her book. Yet within a year, she had made $250,000 from her book. And she changed my life. And she changed Jennifer's life and Jamie's life and Heidi's life. I can tell you the names of all the women in that picture. That's the front row from left to right. Heidi, Jamie, Brooke, Jennifer, me, and I can go through the whole crowd, but I won't bore you. Every one of those people's lives were changed forever because she stopped fucking looking for a publisher. And she made the difference she was supposed to make. So you don't need a traditional publisher to make $250,000 from your book. You don't need a traditional publisher to free your inner author. If Brooke only thought about selling books, she might never have finished that book, or she would have written a different one. Her goal was to actually bring permanent hope and healing to a few of us, 17 of us, 17 people, 250K. She never considered a traditional publisher. Now they beg her and she keeps saying no. So here are the numbers. Write them down for this one retreat, and you could do it virtually, that came from one book, from a brand new just certified coach with no list, no following, no advertising, no social media. She got the people by giving the book out in free workshops at libraries. That's it. She did free workshops at libraries. She did paid workshops at libraries, events just like this one. Okay. So she got 17 people at $12.50. It's 17. Could you find 17 people by offering free copies of your book and free speeches about your book? That right there is $21,250. By the way, that would pay for working with us. It would more than pay for working with us. So 17 people, and she's already got her expenses in. Now, 16 of those 17 people signed up for her 14K package. That is quite a big conversion rate. I normally see about half the people, but she got 16 out of 17. That's $224,000. So that's $245,000. But even if you did half of that, how many people would be happy at half of that at $120,000 from your book in just a few months? Would you be happy if you made $120,000? Because that is what we do with our authors. That's what we do. So you should look for an agent or a publisher if you've got 100,000 social media followers, you've got a kick-ass marketing team, a big budget, you don't want to sell anything, and you've got 18 to 24 months to kill while we wait to get your book out in the world. And if that's you and you match this criteria, let me know. I can still help you get your book done, and I'm happy, if you're one of my clients, to find you a publisher. But most people should consider self-publishing or hybrid publishing, which is what we do. If you want to get your message out in the world and help people, if you want clients, credibility, and revenue now and not in 2 years, if you're still growing your platform like Brooke was and you don't have many followers or an email list, use your book to grow your platform, your revenue, and your followers. The path to creating change is writing a book that turns readers into a steady stream of dream clients that you don't have to do anything. They come to you. So the easiest way to free your inner author and make a difference in a full-time income as an author is to get the book done quickly and efficiently. To have an action-oriented strategy or business plan, no underpants, and to do the work with a mentor like Marianne Williamson that will help you be in alignment with source so that you are the person your clients would hire. These are the steps. These are the steps. There are no other ones. You don't need a degree. You don't need more education. You don't need a website. You don't need a list. In fact, a website or a list and many times a degree or a certification will just hold you back. What you need is to get out there and become the person who is doing it. The purpose of the book is to build momentum for your message. You don't go build momentum and then write a book. Although you can build momentum and write a book, but then you're just building more momentum. So I learned how to build a 7-figure business as an author without a website, without a list, without a following, without any advertising. I got to 3 million I got to 1 million without a website. And I got to 3 million in revenue without any advertising. And that is what I teach people to do. So you got it, mamas and papas. You got it. Those are the steps. Will you be able to do it on your own? Or is it something that you would benefit from help? So I have shown you everything I can show you without us digging in together, one-on-one and in groups, and really talking about you and your book. So we are a nonfiction publishing house. And so if you want to know what it would look like for me to get my hot little hands on your notes and your ideas and your manuscript, that is what I am going to share with you now. This is, you got the how. Doing it on your own without the experience and the team we have takes a lot longer. So if this is a yes for you, hang out. I want to share with you what that looks like, what we're looking for right now. If this sounds like you need two things. You need a commitment to making a difference, and you will need a coach or a team to help you. There's no way around it. And I don't know anyone, not a single person. And I am close friends with Oprah's number 2, Sherry Salata. I'm close friends with Marianne Williamson. No one did it without these two things, a commitment and a coach, a mentor, something like that. But you have to answer for yourself. I don't know why I kind of yelled louder than I wanted to. Whew. You have to answer for yourself. Is this worth it to figure out? Because this stuff isn't easy. And maybe you just want a job. I saw somebody in the chat talking about how they were an editor. I was an editor and a ghostwriter for 19 years. And for most of those, until I was about to turn 40, we've still got about 45 minutes left. So hang in there. I got more to share with you. But until I was about 40, it wasn't worth it to me to figure this out. It wasn't worth it for me. I had other things. I really wanted to lose weight. I really wanted to get married. I really wanted to have kids. I really wasn't as focused on my career. So the question for you is it worth it? And seriously asking yourself, is it worth it? And you guys can give me a thumbs up or a yes or no in the chat. Is it worth it for you to figure this out? Can you keep going with how things are? Maybe it's fine. Maybe you don't need to do this. So you are always getting what you want right now, whether you realize it or not. So figuring it out, making the shift. We talked about the behavioral scientists and what they say it takes to make change. If we're changing, then we have to really identify what are our priorities, and then what are we spending our time and money on? What do we say our priorities are? Are we saying it's spirituality, career, health, family? What are you saying that your priorities are? And then where are you spending your time and money? Where are you spending your time and money? So most people say, most of our clients say that their career and spirituality and making a difference, which making a difference is just your career and spirituality combined, is their number one priority. But then what they are investing in doesn't look like that. Most people spend more money on their career than their vocation. But your vocation determines the quality of your life more than anything else. So option one is trial and error. You already know the way you're doing it, what you'll get. So you'll get more than that. And option 2 is investing the time and money to do it differently. Now, what we do is different than traditional publishing. It's different than self-publishing. It's different than working with an editor. It's different than working with a book coach. It's all of those things. It is the both and. So I'm just going to take a few minutes here and share the behind the scenes of what it is like to work with us. And whether you already have a book done and you're marketing your book and you want to build courses and podcasts and marketing training and learn how to get that book edited or write your next book in the right way, or whether you've never done any of this shit before and it's the very first time, I want to show you inside how we free your inner author and how you become that person. So a couple more examples of our authors because I like to brag on them. This is one of our millionaires. She did 2.2 million in her first year of working with us. Before that, she was making $100 an hour as a life coach. She had 2 kids. One is on the autism spectrum. Tamara Arnold, who has now changed her name to Avalon. Avalon went from working in a gym to having a $500,000 coaching business. She will hit $1 million this year. And she actually borrowed money from a friend to work with me. So the way that Christy paid to work with me was she took an extra job as an adjunct faculty at a university for 3 classes. And she taught 3 classes. Tamara borrowed money, not just from a friend, it was her next door neighbor, and had paid the person back before her book was written. Had paid back before she was written. And Sophia Ramolde, another one of our authors, was couch surfing. She was actually painting Pema Chodron's temple in Crestone, Colorado, and has had, before the pandemic, a $250,000 a year pilgrimage business. She now does virtual pilgrimages and mushroom growth. Teaches people how to grow mushrooms now as part of their spiritual journey. Not those kind of mushrooms either. I think just like lion's heart and reishi mushrooms and all the magical mushrooms. So Jill Angie was making $30,000 a year as a personal trainer. She now makes $30,000 a month as a leader of the body positivity movement in running. Her book, Not Your Average Runner, and her business has gotten her spots in Cosmopolitan Magazine, Runner's World, national TV ads. She even has her own clothing line. So my dream clients, and like I said, we've got a couple spaces right now. We're very selective. I do work personally with everyone, and there's only so many clients that I can work with. I do all of the developmental editing. I don't do the proofreading. We have proofreaders. I don't do the design. You wouldn't want to see that. But we have a whole team, and I don't do, although I do participate in, the alignment with God. So our team includes Marianne Williamson. It includes editors, I think like 15 editors, designers, proofreaders. The part with me is all of the strategy, making sure you write the right book. So if you meet this criteria, I would love to talk to you. First of all, you have to be called to write a powerful message of hope, healing, and transformation. You have to be somebody who is not willing to waste more time to try and guess the best way to get it done. Now, this is probably why our average client age, we've had clients as young as 10 and as old as 86, but our median age is around 52. So these are people who are done dicking around, and we are 95% women. We're 30% people of color, 30% LGBTQ, and we skew older because we are in a place where we are no longer willing to waste time. We're looking for people who want to dramatically increase the difference they're making in the world. So it's not just about writing something like that first type of author, if you build it, they will come. It's about transformation and creating transformation in our lives, in our families' lives, in our clients' lives, in our readers' lives, and in the world. So if you are ready to increase your influence and impact with a book, then I would love to share with you how we do it. And it doesn't mean you have to have the right idea yet. In fact, that's a lot of what I do, is help you scour through your life to find the right idea. If we started to work together now, you would have a book by summer. You would have your manuscript done by May 3rd. You would have edits back, and we'd be in an editing process for May and June. Your ebook would be published July 14th. Your print book would come out July 31st. You would be an Amazon bestseller in the month of July, and then you could stay and do an audio book or a companion course or a podcast or any of our marketing training. So this just gives you a taste of what we do. We help you figure out what your book is about. We help you identify that target market and the ideal reader, that gold star book idea. We help you write all the marketing copy so you're calling people to you and you don't have to go looking for clients. We help you design and develop a signature program, whether you are certified or not, based on your life experience and our conversations with you. We get you that finished manuscript, edited and ready to publish. We then do the publishing with you. It will be self-published, so you get paid right away, but we will hold your hand as we do it, or you do it. You will learn how to get more done in 90 days than you have in a year in the past. We'll get you the book marketing plan, an Amazon bestseller status. We'll run that whole campaign for you. The book will be edited, published, designed. There are no extra charges except for the actual cost of your book. But it isn't cheap. Most authors do make their investment back within the first month of their book coming out, so before the end of the summer. Some of our authors make their money back in the first 3 months before the book is even written. And that's why they stick with us so long. We have people who have been with us for 5 years and have done 5 books. We have people who have done 8 books with us. So when we find the right fit, and fit is crucial, then we're looking for authors that want to stay with us for the long term. Marianne Williamson has been with her publisher for 25 years. That is my goal for our authors, to be with us for 25 years. And to do that, we need to get you evidence quickly that you're starting a movement. And that evidence will be lots of money, lots of readers, lots of clients, and we do that off the bat. If you try this on your own, as some people have shared, you better plan on 1 to 30 years. Sorry about that, swallowed wrong. You're going to have to become an expert in writing, publishing, design, and marketing. It's going to be pretty hard to do. That's probably 10, 20 years of work. And then you just cross your fingers and hope you got it right, even though you had no experience. It's not super logical. If you do it with us, you're going to spend some money up front, but 5 to 6 months, the book is out there making money. So if you think about waiting 30 years to make money on your book and waiting 5 or 6 months to make money on your book, think of all those lost months of making money. If we do some like simple, super simple math, and let's say you just make $1,000 a month from your book, 30 years times $10,000 a year is 30 grand. That's 30 grand that you've lost by waiting to do this. I'm actually going to cough. Hold on. I hate it when I swallow wrong. So dangerous. So you will work with the best in class team. You will work with me, with Marianne Williamson, with our editors, publishing, marketing. Of course, your chance of success is going to be a lot higher. So if you were going to do it on your own and you have, say, a 1% chance of success, maybe 3 if we're lucky, or you're going to do it with us and you have a 99% chance of success, which seems easier and more fun? This is the deal. Now, I will tell you, I have 20 spots that I am filling right now. We already have from this group 192 applications, 192. Now, who knows how serious all of those people are? You may have applied and you may want to apply again just to make sure you are selected. I am going to select the very best applications to have conversations with. So if you go to theauthorincubator.com/apply now, if you're proud of your application, great. I'm going to wait till I have all the applications. I'm going to review them tonight. We're going to start sending out acceptances tonight for who we are welcoming to have a conversation. I have reviewed them and I have a short list, but I was waiting. There are basically 4 possible futures for you now. You now have this information, right? You have the difference process. You understand the mindset. There is this ideal outcome where you're like the authors I shared, like Christy or Sophia or Erica, and your book gets out there and you make $250,000 in the first year. That's the ideal future. Then there's a good future. That's where you go off and you do this and you make $100,000. Then there's a poor outcome where maybe you do it, you get the book out, but you don't make any money. And then there's a disaster. And the disaster is that you don't get your book done now. Yeah, you can apply more than one time. So the disaster is that you don't get your book done at all. So you can look at those 4 possible futures and imagine how different your life is in all 4 of these scenarios. To get you on this golden line, this ideal line, there are 3 things you need. And this is based on the behavioral science that I've shared. You need systems and accountability. You need coaching and community, and you need mindset and spiritual alignment. So I'm going to make this bigger so you can see. This is our model. This is what we do. It's a combination of having you with those little baby steps, the systems and accountability, having coaching available every day. There's a community to connect with, which is one of the things the behavioral scientists say make a big difference. And we have that spiritual alignment, working with Marianne Williamson as your mentor. So that's the Make a Difference model. And that is how, when we work with someone, we not only get the book, but we end up helping them. They can get certified with us as a coach. They can get an online course. They can learn storytelling skills, how to do a webinar. They can do a podcast. They can do joint ventures. They can learn Facebook ads. We build funnels for our authors. We will be your team for the long, long time in the future. But it starts by getting you on that golden line. So if you wait, think about what you're losing. Right now, look at how close the distance is. So if you look where that thumbs up is, I'm going to make this a little bigger for you. So if we look over here, look how close you are right now to the golden line. Here we are now, right here. I just explained this to you, and you're right here. You're so close to that golden line. Now 6 months goes by, and you're moving further and further from that ideal outcome. What is more likely as we get to that 6 month mark is that you're going to get a poor outcome. And then as we move out even further, if we're a year from now, getting on that golden line gets harder and harder to reach. You get further and further away. So a lot of people tell me they're going to wait for some day in the future when something is figured out. But it only gets harder the longer you wait. So if you have decided that now is the time for you, then complete an application. And if you like the application you completed already, great. If you want to do another one, share more about you. You know how competitive this is. Actually, I'll just quickly see. Let's see what we're at. We were at 192 when I started this event. We're at 211. 211 applications in for these 20 spots right now. So if you want to take another crack, fantastic. If you're happy with what you wrote, that's great too. In any case, we will review it. My team and I have plans to do that tonight. I've already gone through the first 192. So everything else that we're getting right now, we will go through. And then if you have been accepted, you'll be notified. So within the next 24 hours, you will find out. We will have a conversation and we'll give you the dates and times to make that conversation happen. So this is for people who either have or want a business related to a nonfiction topic, people who are here to make a difference, and people with that true servant's heart. You will need to be an action taker. So I will share with you what the time and the financial commitment and everything is, but you will be expected to take action very quickly if you are accepted, within probably 24 hours or even less. So the application helps us with the number of people we have who want to work with us, but it also will help you identify if you are ready to step up and commit. We will review everything. If we see potential, we will let you know. And if we don't think there's a fit, we'll be totally honest. And if I have a solution, I will offer it then based on your application. So we get on average about 1,500 applications a month. That's what the last 30 days have looked like. And we only open up the gates from about once a month when we have time to take on those clients. We know it's a huge commitment for you, and it's a huge commitment for us. So if you make it to the interview stage, it'll be just 1 hour. I won't take up all of this time, but we will make a decision right away if you're a fit, and then we will get started, we'll get going, and you will be making money and making a difference within days. If it's not a fit, there's no hard feelings and no obligations. And applying is totally free. And if you're accepted, this call and my time is totally free. That's when we'll go through all of the pricing. So either way, we'll make sure that you have what it takes to generate 6 figures in revenue. And we won't take you if you are not qualified for that. I can tell you for sure, this hour could change your whole life. And we are very particular about when we let people in. The time commitment that we are looking for, it's about 5.5 months. Your book will be done by July 31st. Then you'll get to decide if you want to keep working with us. We are looking for 4 to 6 hours a week in that time. You could do that on weekends. You could do it on evenings. It's about 100 hours of work to get your book done. And we are only looking for win-wins. We're only looking, we have our pick of who we work with. And we know for us, the best people to work with are people we are going to work with for a long, long, long time. That is what I'm looking for. So I want to get you great results, so you want to stay with us forever. And many of our authors, most, I think 76% of our authors write at least 2 books, 30% write 3 books. And we don't even let you do that until you're making $20K a month. So if you feel like this is right for you, you've got that link. It is apply now, theauthorincubator.com/apply now. And just share with you just a few case studies. 60K client, 59K a year, 59K, sorry, a month, $100,000, enrolled 3 out of 3 clients. I could go on and on. 21,000 a month, 90,000 Canadian, 28,000. It's just example over example of what we have been able to do. It's why Marianne Williamson joined forces with us, is that our commitment is to finding these wayfinders, finding people who are aligned with God, but aren't very good at marketing. And frankly, Marianne was one of those people. And that is how Oprah, one of the first things Marianne tells this story to our authors, she says, Oprah told her, I can sell your book much better than you can. Just let me handle it. I can sell your book much better than you can. And that's what we do for our authors. That's the commitment that we make, is I can sell your book much better than you can. So if you are aligned with truth, if you are aligned with source, if you're here to make the world a better place, if you're connected to your purpose on the planet, but you just haven't been able to bust through, the Free Your Inner Author process gives you those steps. If you just work with an editor, they're going to give you one piece of that and you're on your own. If you just work with a publisher, they're going to give you one piece of that. So for instance, if you work with Balboa Press, they're going to publish your book, but you have to write it. You have to do all the marketing. They might put it in a catalog with some Hay House books or whatever, but that's not going to sell any books. They're not going to help you. You could write a book about the phone book. They're not going to help you find that gold star idea. If you work with an editor, you know what they're going to do? They're going to edit your book, which is great, but have you written the right book? Have you already figured out how to generate tens of thousands of dollars? Have you already gotten thousands of readers? Because we line up thousands of readers before the print book is even in your hand. And that's the key of having this holistic approach is, are you meeting with Marianne Williamson weekly and identifying your soul's purpose and staying in harmony with that truth? Do you have people calling you out when you're out of alignment? Do you have a community that you are talking to on the daily that's supporting this vision for you? Because any one piece of it, you can hire a publicist, but if you've got the wrong book, it's not going to work. You can hire an editor, but if you've got the wrong book, it's not going to work. You can hire a publisher, but if you've got the wrong book, it's not going to work. So the developmental piece, Marianne calls that the outer wizardry. That's my zone of genius, where all of our books are hits and get finished. That's me. The inner wizardry is Marianne. And if you're wondering, can I get Angela and Marianne cheaper somewhere else? No. We are the best two people on the planet for what we do. And if you're wondering, can I like skimp and find someone who's half as good as Angela and Marianne? Probably not, because they sell everything separately. So if you are looking for the fastest way to have the biggest impact, for sure, applying and getting your application in so we can review it and learn more about you is the fastest way. If you're happy with trial and error, if you're happy with continuing on the path you've been on, that works too. No problem there. But I would love to hear from you, your idea. I'll tell you the truth. I'm not trying to sell you anything. We have plenty of clients. We've been sold out since 2013. I am trying to sell you something if it's a fit and if you would get a 10x return on that investment. But if I'm not sure that you're going to be set up perfectly to make $250,000, I'm certainly not going to suggest you working with us. It would be out of alignment. It would be out of integrity, and it wouldn't work at all. If I know we've got a fast path for you to increase your impact, increase your influence, and change more people's lives, then it would be irresponsible of me not to offer that opportunity. So, quick recap of everything that we have learned today. I hope that you are leaving here with an arsenal to take with you of information and hopefully of enlightenment, of moments where you're like, oh, well, that's why it was so fucking hard. That explains a lot. And I'm just going to screen share again and just remind you of what we covered. You can think of this as a recap. If you showed up late, I'm going to do the whole webinar in 15 minutes if you missed it, or if you want to speed to the end. So talking about freeing your inner author, and where we started was with the obstacles, the blocks that stop people from getting their book done. I realized I had those same fucking blocks. And I had to solve this for myself before I could show up for my clients. It's not about craft and being the best writer. Those are pieces of it. But it's really about creating your own luck and focusing on transformation and service. So we have to address those blocks. None of the tactics will work if we don't address those blocks. There will always be a good reason not to write your book. I promised you an opportunity at the end. I just shared that opportunity. Some of the benefits of writing a book, which is not just making money and having a lot of free time, but also making yourself proud and knowing that you are in alignment with your purpose. We went through how to free your inner author, how to get your book done, how to market your book, get it into people's hands, drive revenue to support your movement, and go deep to create transformation. I gave you a little of my bio. I shared with you some of our amazing authors. We talked about the 3 types of books that we specialize in. These techniques work for other types of books, but we are amazing at client conversion, platform building, and personal storytelling. And then we talked about the shift from the distribution model relying on traditional publishers to self-publishers, and how COVID has expedited this because now there are fewer bookstores and fewer retail experiences. People are buying books online. There's a lot more supply than demand. And so we have to focus on using the book to get exposure. When we're exposed to people, we get readers. Readers become leads and prospects become clients. The money comes from coaching, speaking, consulting, or serving, and not from selling books. We talked about that old way, the book selling way, and how the old way doesn't really work that great. As many as possible doesn't create sustainable, repeatable business that gives you time for self-care. I shared with you my favorite South Park video, which is you can't just write a great book and then hope it profits. Phase 2 is the key phase. We have to get phase 2 right. So we talked about the new way, the specialized market way, the way that Martha Beck does it, the way that Brooke Castillo does it, the way I do it, the way with fewer hours, less hustle, more time and money for your family, and more time to make a difference. I showed you that specific path to book revenue, what that looks like, and how quickly you could be at almost $500,000 a month. We talked about the 3 reasons why people fail. They don't have a plan, they have a terrible plan, or they're avoiding executing the plan. And we talked about getting to $250,000 the general market way, finding 5,000 people to spend $50 on your low ticket online course, or finding just 100 people at a higher ticket price. So we talked about writing a book that makes a difference, and a book that makes a difference has to be specialized by our definition. So weight loss, career change, divorce, none of these might be yours. We've got thousands of books and they're all on different specialized topics. If you're doing this on your own, you want to find that golden book idea. If you're doing it with me, that's what you're paying me for. But if you're writing a generic book on self-love, confidence, happiness, self-doubt, surviving transition, authenticity, motivation, inspiration, it is not going to do what you need it to do. We did our first exercise, which was your life timeline, to help you find those specific books that you would have bought at different times in your life. We did that timeline exercise. I shared with you my story of how I figured out this method and of begging to be someone's client. And we want a book that sets you up with clients begging to work with you. And then we did our second exercise of the workshop, which was to create your winning book idea from your expertise, your mission, your market, and the marketplace. We talked about how you could do it the hard way, trial and error, or you could learn the easy way. And we went through how I did this and how you can do it too with the 10-step process. The 6 steps that happen before you write your book: define your ideal reader, identify your voice, frame your outcome, focus your mojo, envision your success, and release your blocks. You need to know and do these steps before you write if you want all these outcomes. Then step 7 was writing, and then we talked about editing, publishing, and marketing. That's steps 8, 9, and 10. Edit, publish, and market. They work every time. I took you through all of these steps and shared with you a few more secrets. The first was that self-sabotage will happen. Self-sabotage happens to humans. That is what humaning is about. And so you need a strategy in place to defeat sabotage. For our authors, that strategy is working with Marianne Williamson. The good news is you're normal, but we do need to have a strategy. You can't beat your inner author up into coming out to play. We talked about what behavioral scientists say it takes to make a difference or to make a change in your behavior, the secrets of change. You must have money on the line. And this is according to Katie Milkman's How to Change, but I also heard her on Planet Money for my Planet Money fans, where she talked about putting money on the line, surrounding yourself with an engaged community, breaking up the steps into small steps, and celebrating to rewire the behavior. We talked about how Marianne Williamson and I are the yin and the yang, the both and mindset, spirituality, all that stuff is important, but we also need strategies, deadlines, and tactics. And then we went into marketing. So I promised you I would share with you why your stuff hasn't been selling. And we talked about how you can't sell these, when we talked about Martyr Mom to Free Mom, that was her wish for the reader. But it wasn't the problem the reader was trying to solve. We can give it to her, but we can only give it to her if we can pull her in. So we have to take off the invisibility cloak, and we have to learn how to attract clients with the right messaging. And then we give them, then we can even sell them before we write. We give them what we promised. I threw in a little bonus here and talked about why I don't think you should self-publish, why I don't think you should use a traditional publisher. Traditional publishing is a bad strategy, especially now that people aren't buying books in bookstores. And we talked about how you can make $250,000 without a traditional publisher. I walked you through that specific math, and everybody agreed we would be able to find 17 participants for an event. 17 readers of your book that want to know more. That decision slows most people down, but if you don't have 2 years to wait, you can use your book to grow a platform, grow revenue, and grow followers. And people will pay a premium for your expertise. The easiest and fastest way to make a difference in a full-time income as an author is to free your inner author so you can get your book done quickly and efficiently. It is to have an action-oriented strategy for how to use the book. And it's being the person your clients would hire. The purpose of the book is to build momentum. You wouldn't need me if you had it all figured out. Okay? I learned this myself. I didn't have a list. I didn't have a website. And you can do it too. I talked you through what that might look like and why spending time and money on your career makes sense. So if you think about how much you've spent on your car or how much you've spent on your house in the last year, and then you think about how much have you spent on your vocation. Your vocation determines the quality of your life more than anything. Those are the accomplishments that you will be most proud of and most in alignment with. So what we do is not just editing, it's not just publishing, it's not just book coaching, it's not just mindset coaching. It's a new paradigm where we will manage your business as an author. We will help you step up and be the leader you know you're meant to be, but you just don't have the marketing skills for it. And we talked about some of my successful authors and who we are looking to work with right now. Working with us is not cheap, but that investment will be paid back quickly if you are the right fit for the program. So the decision is yours. The time is now. We have just made these spaces available. I gave you the 15-minute lowdown in case you missed it or showed up late. You can make a difference with a book. You can free your inner author. You can tell your story and change the world. And that is what we do at the Author Incubator, where we change the world one book at a time. Thanks for being with me.